am telling you the story of my experience with the slave trade, I guess I can say that.
Okay.
So, I guess I'll start by saying two things. One, I'm an avid traveler, so I've been a lot of places, seen a lot of things, experienced a lot. I'm not the most emotional person that you'll ever run into, but every experience means something to me. So one time I got back from Barbados, which is a place that my parents really wanted to go. So they were like, oh, next time you go somewhere, let us know. So what's next? And my name is Kine, which is Senegalese. And so I said, let's go to Senegal.
Right.
So my dad gets on the internet and finds a trip to Senegal for $1,500, all inclusive for 10 days, which is ridiculous, but that's the way I love to travel, like for cheap. So we get to Senegal, $1,500, all inclusive, meals, everything. Only thing you have to buy is souvenirs, even tours, even the tour guide was paid for. So we get there and we're enjoying it. It's the best. And because my name is Kine and it's Senegalese, they're like, your family, you stay. You cannot go back. So we were enjoying ourselves, and then one of the last things on our trip was to visit Goree Island, which is where the slaves were traded in West Africa. So no matter where they brought them from, you know, whether it was Ghana or Nigeria or somewhere else, they would take them to Senegal, to Goree Island, to actually leave and go to America or wherever else they were going. So we go to Goree Island, which is now a museum. And just as we're getting there, the curator stops us, and because there's a group of Europeans that are coming in. And it didn't explain, he just said, stop, you all wait over here, and you guys come with me. So of course, you know, we're tripping like, oh, so the white people get to go first. It's the same way over here as it is over there. So we're just fussing and fussing. So meanwhile, so they take them, and as they get out the way, then they come back and they tell us, we don't take Europeans and African Americans in the same group, because we have to explain the story to them from their point of view and what they did. And we explain the story to African Americans as to what happened to their people. So once they explained that to us, we were cool. So we waited for them to go through, and they came out like devastated. Like the look on their faces were just blank. Like, oh my gosh. And so we go in, and they tell us, they first take us to a part that looks a lot like a museum, or just, you know, a place you would just go and hang out, really. This is like the beginning. This is like when you first walk in. So just behind me is where it all happens, though. So this is where the slave trade would happen. They would take them up one of these two staircases, and at the top will be where the slave would stand, and down at the bottom here will be where the buyers would stand and bid on the slaves. So after that, he says, you know, you may get a little emotional, and I'm like, okay, whatever, because I'm not emotional, who cares? I care about the slave trade, but I wasn't there, and, you know, I'm so far removed from it that really all I know is the civil rights movement, you know, and not really the slave trade, and what I learned in Black history. So we walk in, and they're like explaining the rooms. This is where they would keep the babies, and this is where they would keep the mothers, and because the men were in one room, the women were in another room, and the children were in another room. And it's just made out of concrete, and they had them laying on the floors in their own feces and whatever else happened in the room, you know, where the mothers are screaming and crying because they can't get connected to their babies. They've lost their babies now, you know, and the men are moaning and groaning because they can't save their wives and they can't save their children. And then they go on to explain this. And so, you know, the group, as a group, we're walking through room to room, and I kind of go off on my own. And as I walk into one of the rooms where the women stayed, it was like I could just hear them yelling out, like, my baby, my baby. And I could like hear the babies crying in the next room, and you feel this spirit come over you, like, take me out of here, like I don't want to be here. And so just at that moment, everything inside of me that ever happened that I never cried about came out, and I go crazy, like oh my god, oh my God, oh my God. And I'm screaming and I'm crying. So everybody comes from their other rooms and they're running. What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And my mom, who has not seen me cry since I was 5 or whatever, fell off my bike. It's like, oh my God, what is wrong with you? And I'm almost possessed because I can feel what these women were feeling, and not ever having a baby myself, I almost want to say I wouldn't know what they felt, but I felt it. And they had to take me out of there. Like they really had to walk me out, sit me down, get me water, paper towel, you know, and I could not stop crying. It was just like, why did they do this to us? Like, how evil do you have to be that you could do this? And when I felt that, that's changed my whole perspective of the slave trade. Because for them, it was leaving everything behind. And I've moved a lot, but I have never left everything behind. This whole thing is Goree Island, but this is where they held the people, the children. All these windows that you see were different rooms. And right in the middle of this building is where they did that slave trade, where that stairwell was. Then there's a door right on the side here, and the boat would sit out here, and a plank was built from Goree Island to the boat, and they would walk out of that door and have to walk across this plank through the water onto the boat, which they said that some people wouldn't even make it to the boat. They would just jump off into the water and kill themselves. And they called that the point of no return, because they had finally figured out, because they didn't know, they were tricked. And once they figured it out, that once you get on this boat, you're gone forever. And so they named it the point of no return. And they had them for days and days sleeping on those floors, babies, women, even the men, and they were just lined up back to back, and they would lay them on the floor, you know, kind of just next to each other. Or
Did you go back in?
Other.
Did you go back
Once
in
I left
after?
out?
Yeah. Not at all?
No, and I won't.
Ever again?
I don't want to feel that again. I never want to feel that again. When I say that I'm not the most emotional person, it's because I don't really like to feel. And that feeling was so strong, and it was the most horrible thing I have ever felt. And I wouldn't want to feel that again. It's too much. I think everybody needs
should experience that. Should feel that feeling that you felt.
As crazy as it sounds, I think everybody needs to know what the slaves went through. I think it teaches you how to treat people, how you wouldn't want to be treated a certain way. I think even the most evil person, deep down inside, would get something from that. Like they would walk away from that moved, touched, different. And for that reason, that's why I say that. We usually are like, oh, tell them about Goree Island. You know, that's how we started out. Oh, let me tell you about Goree Island. And a lot of people don't even know what Goree Island is. And that's first surprising that, you know, we have Black history and we talk about the slave trade more so about when they got to America, not so much when they left Africa. And that place that I showed you, that was like they called it the mansion or the house, and that's where they would house the people. And that was specifically built for the slave trade. Amazing experience.
Swing.
Oh, this is cool too. So Demikaso, we call her Demi. Demi and I found out that they like school supplies. Now we found this out separately because we didn't even know each other when we found out. So she bought school supplies and I bought school supplies. So our guide took us to give away the school supplies. And so we go to this one little town, and the kids are hanging outside, and so we pulled out the school supplies and we start giving them away. We had like, both of us had like a suitcase full. And they're going crazy because they don't get this kind of stuff that often. Eventually we run out and they don't understand. It's no more. We have no more. They're like, me want pen, pencil, paper, you know. And so they're going crazy and they're, you know, begging each other to have, like, some people have 3 and then some people have none. So they're begging each other to share, and we're like, share. I don't know how to say share in Walmart. And I'm like, share. You give him one, you give him one. So I'm telling them that, and then so they just start to go kind of crazy a little bit, not like in a mob, scary way, but in a lot of people around you. Is at least 30 people around me asking me for stuff. So, and I'm like claustrophobic, I'm obsessive compulsive. So my compulsive disorder just kicked in, and my mom sees this and she's looking like, oh gosh. She's like, Kine, come, Kine, come. And because I'm like, she's like, Kine, come. So they know Kine because that's a Senegalese name, and they're like, Kine. And I'm like, so now they like grabbing my leg, and I'm like trying to run, and
wow.
And so the bus has to like drive off a little bit so I don't get like bombarded like up against the bus or whatever. So he drives off a little van a little bit, and so then you see the van rolling away, and you see me like